Hey, what's going on, guys? Ace John here, and today we're going to be going over the This Week at Bungie for April 1st, 2021. But before we jump into this, I ask that if you want to keep up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, leaks, tutorials, and more, that you go subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's jump into it. So starting off here, we actually have a very important note about the return of Ada-1 in the tower during Season 14. They state that in addition to Ada-1 being the primary vendor for the armor synthesis system, aka the armor transmog, they're also going to make Ada-1 the vendor who will deliver a variety of armor focused items and upgrades. So in order to make this happen, they're going to make it so Ada-1 will now sell one randomly chosen armor mod from the general and armor slot, helmet, gauntlets, etc. groups, and one randomly chosen combat style mod chosen from the Charge of Flight and Warmind Cell mod groups. They also go on to state that on a weekly basis, Ada-1 will sell one armor set randomly chosen from the world loot pool with a stat roll that also changes on a weekly basis, and that finally Ada-1 will also sell armor upgrade materials, upgrade modules, enhancement prisms, and ascendant shards in the same way that Banshee 44 does right now. They also go on to state that since Ada-1 is taking on the armor responsibilities, Banshee 44 is getting a few revisions to his inventory as well. What this means is that the gunsmith, aka Banshee 44, will no longer sell armor mods, but he will retain the rest of the items that he currently sells. Additionally, on a weekly basis, Banshee 44 will sell a selection of 6 weapons randomly chosen from the weapons in the world loot pool, 2 weapons each from the kinetic, energy, and power slots, with perk rolls on each weapon that are randomly determined at the start of the week. So overall, these are some pretty good changes. They're not really changes that will affect me, but I know a lot of people that end up getting behind on the combat style mods or just the in general mods, or are still looking for some god roll world loot weapons, and so I know this will benefit them a lot and just overall good change. Next up, we have some changes coming to everyone's favorite throwaway perks, that being Celerity and Bottomless Grief. There's a lot of words here, but basically what they say when comparing Celerity to the Deepstone Crypt perks, they felt like they missed the mark. They also go on to note that they did get a lot of suggestions to make Bottomless Grief and Celerity intrinsic to Adept weapons, and while they state that it's a cool idea, they go on to state that it has the 3 following problems. First problem would be for performance reasons. They have a maximum number of perks that can run on a character at a time, and legendary weapons have a threshold per weapon, and many of them are right at the limit. Adding a perk on top of that without taking one away causes bad things to happen, in the form of random perks turning off. The second reason is that adding a new perk column to weapons from a specific source introduces power creep, and pretty soon we end up having to do the same for weapons from other sources. And their third reasoning is that adding a new perk column to only Adept weapons would work against the third goal of Adept weapons, and they believe that it'd feel bad for players dying against weapons that are able to stack Celerity with things like Outlaw Rampage. I guess I'll cover this real quick for context reasons, but their third goal was that they did not want to make players who can't earn these weapons feel like they can't compete with players who have them. And so in order to meet people at the halfway mark here, they're going to make the following changes to the Nightfall weapons. Bottomless Grief grants a permanent active plus 30 to magazine, and Bottomless Grief is now a fixed alternate perk in the left column on Adept weapons in Nightfall weapons. Basically what that means is that you can switch between that and a randomly rolled perk in the inspection screen. And then with Trials weapons, Celerity grants a permanently active plus 20 to both reload and handling, and Celerity is now a fixed alternate perk on the right column on Adept weapon drops in Trials. Also, another thing they go on to note is that this change is not retroactive, meaning you will have to acquire a brand new Adept weapon in order to get that option between choosing a randomly rolled perk and Bottomless Grief or Celerity. Just to give my thoughts briefly on this, I'm not really a fan of this. I know they go on to say why they couldn't make it intrinsic, but to me personally, it doesn't really make sense. Like, we were able to have it intrinsically in Destiny 1. I'm not sure why we can't have it intrinsically in Destiny 2. And don't try and tell me there was some technical issue, because guns in Destiny 1 had a lot more columns and a lot more perks and a lot more going on. So I guess I'm just not fully understanding what the problem would be. Also, I'm not sure how this would be power creep, because if we left them how they currently were, it would not be power creep because it's active less than 1% of the time. In extremely specific scenarios. Even with these changes, I still feel like they won't be worth picking. Maybe Bottomless Grief on an Adept Swarm, but like I said, I still feel like this is not enough. Will it help with mitigating bad rolls? Yes. But will Celerity really be useful over something like a damage perk on a hand cannon? Or will Bottomless Grief really be that much more useful than a reload perk on a Nightfall weapon? I'm gonna have to say no for now. Anyways, moving on into TWAB, Bungie's going to be doing a deep dive on the Presage exotic quest. They'll be live streaming this on Wednesday, April 7th at 10 a.m. PDT on twitch.tv/Bungie or youtube.com/Bungie. I'll have a link to both of those channels in the description down below. Lastly, here at TWAB, we got some reports from the player support team. First up, they go to acknowledge that they sort of screwed up when it comes to the Proving Ground strike, whether it's free or not. They go on to state that it's part of Beyond Light and that you need to purchase Beyond Light as well as the season in order to access the Proving Ground strike. Next up, they go on to state that they have resolved the issues with the Guardian Games Ghost Shells and that they have compensated people who got affected by this. So check your postmaster for your compensation. Next up, in regards to Flawless Dungeon triumphs, they say that originally it was awarded on an individual basis for not dying during the activity, and that they have now changed it to be on a fire team basis. Lastly, we got some known issues, which are the following. Players can continuously respawn in the electric wall in Presage and become trapped. Players may become stuck under moving platforms in the Proving Ground strike. The wanted Arcadian Cord bounty is no longer available from Spider. The Zaris Greed of Zevio Wrath is incorrectly displaying as a fallen walker, and players using Wish Ender may not be able to see through walls when standing in a Warlock's Rift. With that being said, that brings us to the movies and the artists of the week. As always, if you like to view those, it'll be in the TWAB, linked in the description down below. But that's pretty much it for the news for this week. It's pretty light and will be for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully tomorrow or Monday, I'll be getting out a Palindrome review. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned. Anyways, this was John, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.